The Great Hall of the Volanthi Empire was the largest room in the known galaxy. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Crystal lights hung from golden chains, each one older than human civilization itself. The floor was made of black stone that reflected everything like a dark mirror. Princess Larethan stood on the raised platform at the center of the hall. She was beautiful in the way that storms are beautiful. Her skin was covered in tiny silver scales that caught the light whenever she moved. Her eyes were gold with black slits in the center, like a cat. She was tall, almost 7 feet, and she looked down at the assembled crowd with anger burning in her heart. Today was the day she would be sold. Her father, Emperor of Orth, had made a deal with the Galactic Compact. The Volanthi Empire would share its mining rights in the Orion sector. In return, Princess Larethan would marry a representative from another species. It was politics. It was business. It was everything she hated. Lyra then was over 300 years old, though she looked no more than 30 by human standards. Her species lived for thousands of years. They considered themselves the most advanced race in the galaxy. They had built empires while other species were still learning to make fire. And now she was being traded like cargo. The hall was filled with representatives from 100 different worlds. There were the tall, blue-skinned Cathari, their 4 arms folded across their broad chests. There were the Morvani, small creatures with large black eyes who communicated through flashes of light. There were the Drulkin, massive beings covered in thick fur who breathed through tubes, connected to tanks on their backs. And there were the humans. Larethan looked at them with disgust. Humans had only joined the Galactic Compact 30 years ago. They were the newest members, the youngest species, the weakest civilization. Their ships numbered only 200. The Volanthi had millions. Humans lived for barely a century. They were mayflies, brief flickers of life that appeared and disappeared before anyone could remember their names. Why were they even here? High Overseer Keth stepped forward to begin the auction. He was an old Volanthi with faded scales and a voice that carried through the entire hall without any need for technology. We gather here today to witness the bonding of Princess Larethan of the 3rd Solar Dynasty, he announced. Representatives of the Galactic Compact, you may now present your offers. The Cathari ambassador stepped forward first. The Cathari Dominion offers Prince Varus, 3rd son of the High King. We also offer 50 warships and exclusive trade agreements for the next 500 years. A murmur went through the crowd. It was a generous offer. The Morvani representative flashed a complex pattern of lights. A translator spoke for them. The Morvani Collective offers Ambassador Tessic, along with access to our communication network and 300 years of technological exchange. More murmurs. The Morvani network was valuable beyond measure. One by one, the representatives made their offers. Each tried to outdo the last. Ships, technology, resources, territory. Larethan listened to it all with a cold face, but inside, she was screaming. They were discussing her life like she was property. They were deciding her future without caring what she wanted. Then something unexpected happened. A human stepped forward. He was unremarkable. Average height, brown hair, green eyes, a face that would disappear in any crowd. He wore a simple dress uniform, blue and silver, with a few medals on his chest. He was not tall or strong or impressive in any way. Commander Daniel Hayes of the Earth Alliance vessel Horizon's Edge, he said. I offer myself as husband to the princess. The hall went silent for a moment. Then laughter exploded from every corner. The human offers himself? High Overseer Keth could not hide his amusement. What could Earth possibly offer the princess? Your entire fleet could fit in one of our cargo bays. Your species will be extinct before the princess reaches middle age. Daniel did not flinch. He did not look embarrassed or angry. He simply stood there and waited for the laughter to die down. "Earth offers loyalty," he said when the hall was quiet again. "We offer devotion. And we offer the full protection of humanity's fleet." More laughter. A Cathari delegate made a joke about humans being good for entertainment. A Drelkin snorted through his breathing tubes, but Emperor Vorith raised his hand, and silence fell instantly. The Emperor was ancient, even by Volanthi standards. His scales had turned from silver to white over the centuries. His eyes had seen empires rise and fall. He had fought in wars that human historians would never learn about. And now those old, calculating eyes were studying the human commander with great interest. "Why?" Vorith asked. His voice was soft, but everyone heard it clearly. "Why would you offer yourself for this marriage? You have nothing to gain. Your species is too young to matter in galactic politics. You will be dead before my daughter finishes her morning routine 1,000 years from now. Why would you do this?" Daniel met the Emperor's gaze without fear. "Because someone should," he said simply. "Because your daughter deserves someone who will stay. And because humans have always done the things that others said were impossible." Vorith stared at him for a long moment. Something that might have been curiosity or cruelty flickered in his ancient eyes. "The human's offer is accepted." The hall erupted in chaos. Ambassadors shouted protests. Delegates demanded explanations. The Cathari ambassador threw his ceremonial staff on the ground in anger. And Larethan felt her. World-shattered dot, she had prepared herself for many possibilities. She had imagined being married to a Cathari prince or a Morvani diplomat. She had accepted that her husband would be chosen for her. But she had never imagined this. A human, a primitive. A creature who would grow old and die while she still looked young. A nobody from a nothing species. Protocol demanded her silence during the ceremony, so she stood frozen as the paperwork was completed and the agreements were signed. She watched through a haze of rage as Daniel Hayes officially became her bonded partner under galactic law. Finally, when the ceremony ended, Daniel approached the platform. He climbed the steps slowly, his eyes never leaving her face. When he reached her, he stopped at the proper distance and bowed deeply. "Princess Larethan," he said formally, "I am honored to be your husband. I will serve you faithfully for all the days of my life." Larethan's control finally broke. 300 years of royal training vanished in an instant. She looked down at this small, insignificant human and felt every drop of her anger focus into 2 words. "You dare call me your wife?" She gasped in shock and fury. Daniel straightened from his bow. His face showed no hurt, no anger, no disappointment. He simply looked at her with calm green eyes. Then he bowed again, even deeper than before, and said nothing at all. The crowd watched in silence. Some pitied the human. Some laughed at him. Some wondered what Emperor Vorith was planning. But no one noticed the way Daniel's hands were steady. No one saw the determination in his eyes when he rose from his bow. No one understood that this human had walked into this hall knowing exactly what would happen. And no one imagined that this small, insignificant moment would change the entire galaxy. The ceremony was over. The princess had a husband. And Daniel Hayes had begun the longest, most difficult mission of his life. He intended to win her heart. However long it took. Whatever the cost, because that was what humans did. They stayed. The diplomatic ship Starward carried them through the void between stars. It would take 3 months to reach Earth. 3 months of traveling through empty space in a vessel designed for comfort rather than speed. The ship had everything anyone could want. Beautiful rooms, excellent food, entertainment systems. Gardens filled with plants from 100 worlds. And Princess Larethan refused to enjoy any of it. She had claimed the largest suite on the ship and locked herself inside. The door had a special seal that required her handprint to open. She had made it very clear that no one was welcome, especially not her husband. Daniel Hayes did not complain. He took a small cabin on the lower deck, the kind meant for junior officers. It had a bed, a desk, a small bathroom, and nothing else. He did not ask for anything better. He did not demand the treatment due to a princess's husband. Instead, he started a routine. Every morning, Daniel woke before the artificial sunrise. He exercised in the small gym on Deck 4, pushing his body through the same training he had done since joining the Earth Alliance Navy. Then he showered, dressed in clean clothes, and went to the ship's kitchen. The kitchen staff were Volanti, and they did not like humans. They looked at Daniel with the same disgust that everyone else did. But Daniel was patient. He asked questions about Volanti food. He wanted to know what the princess liked to eat. He wanted to learn about the spices and cooking methods of her culture. At first, the cooks ignored him. But Daniel kept coming back. Day after day, he asked the same questions with the same polite tone. Eventually, an older cook named Patrick started answering him. The princess enjoys morning bread with honey from the golden hives, Patrick said one day. She also likes fruit from the Volanti homeworld, but we do not have any on this ship. What fruit is similar? Daniel asked. Patrick thought about it. Earth is something called strawberries. The taste is not the same, but the texture is close. Daniel nodded and wrote this down in a small notebook he carried everywhere. He filled pages with information about Volanti customs, foods, and traditions. He wrote down the names of Lorethan's ancestors. He wrote down the history of her family. He wrote down everything he could learn. Every day at noon, Daniel prepared a tray of food for the princess. He chose dishes based on what he had learned. He arranged them according to Volanti custom, with the main dish in the center and smaller items around it in a specific pattern. Then he walked up to her suite and left the tray outside her door. He also left a note. The first note was simple. I hope you enjoy your meal. I tried to prepare it according to your traditions. Please let me know if I made any mistakes. Lorethan did not respond. But when Daniel came back the next day, the tray was empty. He continued the routine. Every day, a new meal. Every day, a new note. He never pushed. He never knocked. He never asked to come inside. He simply left the food and walked away. Lieutenant Commander Grace Kim watched all of this with growing frustration. Grace was Daniel's second in command on the Horizon's Edge, and she had volunteered to join him on this mission. She was a short woman with black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She is using you, Grace said one evening as Daniel prepared another tray. She takes your food but gives you nothing in return. She treats you like a servant. She is eating, Daniel replied. That is something? It is not enough. You are her husband. You have rights under the bonding agreement. You could demand that she spend time with you. You could demand that she treat you with respect. Daniel shook his head. Demands would not help. She was forced into this marriage. She lost her home, her family, her future. Everything she knew was taken from her. Demanding her respect would only make her hate me more. She already hates you. No. Daniel placed a small flower next to the food on the tray. He had found it in the ship's garden. It was purple with silver edges, similar to flowers on the Volanti homeworld. She hates what I represent. She hates being controlled. She hates feeling powerless. But she does not know me yet. I have to show her who I am. Grace crossed her arms. And who are you, exactly? Daniel smiled slightly. It was a sad smile, the kind that came from deep pain. Someone who knows what it feels like to be alone. He picked up the tray and walked toward the door. Grace watched him go, her frustration mixing with something that might have been respect. Thought Daniel had not talked much about his past. Grace knew the basic facts. His parents had died in the Kepler station disaster when he was 12 years old. A reactor failure had killed over 3,000 people in less than an hour. Young Daniel had been in school on Earth when it happened. He had watched the news reports with his classmates, not knowing that his parents were among the dead. His grandmother had raised him after that. A kind old woman named Elena, who had taught him to cook, to garden, to fix broken things. She had died when he was 19, leaving him completely alone in the universe. That was why he had joined the Navy. That was why he had volunteered for every dangerous mission. That was why he had walked into the auction hall and offered himself as a husband to a princess who would live for thousands of years after he died. Daniel Hayes was looking for somewhere to belong, someone to stay with. And he had decided that Princess Larethan would be that someone, whether she wanted it or not. The days turned into weeks. Daniel continued his routine without change. Meals in the morning, notes with every tray, flowers when he could find them. He learned the Volanthi language, practicing until his pronunciation was nearly perfect. He read every book about Volanthi history that the ship's computer had. He memorized the names of every ruler in Larethan's family line going back 10,000 years. And slowly, very slowly, things began to change. The notes that Daniel left started disappearing with the trays. Larethan was reading them. Daniel could not be certain, but he thought he saw the curtains in her window move sometimes when he walked away. She was watching him. One day, 5 weeks into the journey, Daniel found something outside his cabin door. It was a small piece of paper, folded into a neat square. Inside was a single sentence written in Volanthi script. The honey was too sweet. Daniel stared at those 4 words for a long time. Then he smiled, the biggest smile Grace had ever seen on his face. "What is it?" she asked. Daniel showed her the note. "She talked to me. She complained about the honey." "She talked to me," Daniel repeated. "She could have thrown the food away. She could have ignored me forever. But she took the time to write this note and leave it where I would find it. That means she is thinking about me. That means she is paying attention." Grace shook her head. "You are the strangest man I have ever met." Daniel carefully folded the note and put it in his pocket, next to his heart. "My grandmother used to say that the longest journeys begin with the smallest steps. This is a step. A small one, but it is a step." He went to the kitchen and asked Petrick about Volanthi honey preferences. He learned that royalty preferred a lighter variety with less sweetness. He adjusted his recipe for the next day's meal. The next note from Larethan said, "Better." Daniel kept that note too. He kept every note she ever wrote to him, even the complaints, even the criticism, even the silence between them, because silence could be broken. Hatred could turn to understanding. And walls, no matter how high, could be climbed by someone patient enough to keep trying. Daniel Hayes was very patient, and he had 3 months to make a start. The attack came without warning on their 47th night in space. Larethan was alone in the observation deck, watching the stars drift past the massive windows. It was the one place on the ship where she felt something close to peace. The observation deck was usually empty at this hour, and she had started coming here when she could not sleep. She thought about Daniel Hayes. She did not want to think about him. She wanted to hate him. She wanted to ignore him completely and pretend he did not exist. But he made that impossible with his endless patience, his daily meals, his notes that said nothing demanding but somehow said everything. Yesterday's note had been about her mother. "I learned that today marks 5 years since the passing of Empress Varthan. I lit a candle in the human tradition to honor her memory. I am sorry for your loss." How had he known? How had this simple human discovered something so personal? And why did he care? Larethan had not cried when her mother died. Volanthi royalty did not show such weakness. But reading that note, alone in her room with no one watching, she had felt something crack inside her chest. something she had kept frozen for 5 long years. She did not understand this human. She did not understand his kindness. No one had ever been kind to her without wanting something in return. Power, influence, favor with the Emperor. Everyone wanted something. What did Daniel Hayes want? The first explosion shook the entire ship. Lorethan grabbed the railing as the deck tilted beneath her feet. Alarms started screaming. The lights flickered once, twice, then died completely. Emergency red replaced the normal white, turning everything the color of blood. She heard distant screaming, metal tearing. More explosions somewhere deep in the ship. Then her door burst open. 3 figures in black, tactical gear stormed into the observation deck. They moved fast, faster than anyone should move, their weapons already raised and aimed at her chest. Lorethan recognized the symbol on their shoulders immediately. House Catharian, a rival faction in the Volanthi Empire that had opposed her father for centuries. They wanted the throne. They had always wanted the throne. And now they were here to make sure she never produced an heir that might threaten their claim. Assassins. Lorethan was trained in combat. All Volanthi royalty learned to fight from childhood. But she was unarmed, still dressed in her sleeping clothes, caught completely by surprise. The first assassin was already moving toward her, blade extended. She dodged the first strike but caught the second across her arm. Silver blood sprayed across the deck. The pain was sharp and immediate. The second assassin circled behind her. The third blocked the main door. She was trapped. Princess Lorethan of the Third Solar Dynasty, the lead assassin said, his voice cold and empty. House Catharian sends its regards. Your bloodline ends tonight. He raised his blade for the killing blow, and then Daniel was there. He came through the secondary entrance, the maintenance door that nobody used, moving faster than Lorethan had ever seen a human move. He had no weapon. He had no armor. He was wearing simple sleep clothes, his feet bare against a cold metal floor. But his eyes were not simple. His eyes were the eyes of someone who had already decided to die. The first assassin turned to face this new threat. He was faster than Daniel. He was stronger than Daniel. He was trained from birth to kill. His blade swung in a perfect arc aimed at Daniel's throat. Daniel did not try to dodge. He walked straight into the blade, letting it sink deep into his shoulder. The assassin froze for half a second, shocked that anyone would do something so insane. That half second was all Daniel needed. His hands found the assassin's throat. There was a sharp crack. The assassin dropped like a puppet with cut strings. The second assassin fired some kind of energy weapon. Daniel spun, using the dead assassin's body as a shield. The shots burned through the corpse, but did not reach him. Then he threw the body directly at the shooter. Both went down in a tangle of arms and legs. Daniel was on him before he could recover, his fists moving in a blur. Once, twice, 3 times. The assassin stopped moving. 2 down. 1 left. The third assassin did not hesitate. He ignored Daniel completely and lunged for Lorethan. His blade was aimed at her heart. This was his mission. Kill the princess. Nothing else mattered. Daniel intercepted. He threw himself between the blade and Lorethan, putting his body directly in the path of the weapon. The blade punched through his abdomen and out his back. Lorethan saw the point emerge from his body, silver with her own blood from the wound on her arm. Daniel grabbed the assassin's wrist and refused to let go. His face was white with pain. His body was shaking. Blood poured from his wounds, pooling on the deck beneath his bare feet. But his grip never loosened. He held on to that wrist with every bit of strength left in his dying body. "Run," he gasped to Lorethan. "Get help, run." The assassin tried to pull back for another strike. Daniel held on. The assassin twisted his blade inside Daniel's body. Daniel screamed but did not release him. Larethan did not run. Something changed in her at that moment. Something broke and something else was born in its place. She looked at this human, this mayfly, this insignificant creature she had despised for weeks. She watched him hold death at bay with nothing but his will and his hands. And she understood that he was not doing this for politics. He was not doing this for power or influence or favor. He was doing this because she was his wife, because he had promised to protect her, because he was exactly who he had claimed to be from the very beginning, someone who stayed. Larethan picked up the fallen energy weapon from the second assassin's hand. She had never fired a human weapon before, but all energy weapons worked basically the same way. Point, squeeze, kill. She fired 3 times. Each shot hit the third assassin in the center of his chest. He dropped immediately. Daniel collapsed the moment the threat was gone. His body crumpled onto the deck, his blood spreading in a dark pool around him. The blade was still in his stomach. His breathing was shallow and getting weaker. Larethan caught him before his head hit the floor. She pulled him into her lap, cradling him against her body, pressing her hands against his wounds, even though she knew it was not enough. Silver and red blood mixed together on her fingers. "Medical team!" She screamed into the darkness. "I need a medical team now. Emergency in the observation deck. Now." She looked down at Daniel's face. His eyes were losing focus. His skin was cold and getting colder. But he was looking at her. He was still looking at her. Why? She demanded. Her voice cracked. She did not try to hide it. "Why would you do this? I have been cruel to you. I have ignored you. I have treated you like nothing. Why would you die for me?" Daniel's lips moved. His voice was barely a whisper. "Because you are my wife. This is what husbands do." "You fool," Larethan said. Tears were falling from her golden eyes. The Lanthi tears were silver, like mercury, and they dropped onto Daniel's face like tiny mirrors. "You stupid, stubborn, impossible fool." Daniel smiled. It was a weak smile, the smile of someone fading away. "Had to stay," he whispered. "Promised I would stay." His eyes closed. His breathing slowed to almost nothing. The medical team arrived moments later, rushing through the door with equipment and stretchers and frantic shouts. They took Daniel from her arms and loaded him onto a hover stretcher. They rushed him toward the medical bay. Larethan followed. She did not care that she was still in her sleeping clothes. She did not care that she was covered in blood, hers and his. She did not care that the entire ship was still shaking from whatever damage the assassins had done. She only cared about one thing. Daniel Hayes had to live because if he died, she would never get the chance to tell him she was wrong. She would never get the chance to be the wife he deserved. She would never get the chance to stay for him the way he had stayed for her. And that, Larethan realized, would be the greatest failure of her 300 years of life. The medical bay was chaos. Volanthi doctors rushed around Daniel's body, their silver hands moving faster than Larethan could follow. They shouted orders in their own language, demanding tools and medications and things she did not understand. Machines beeped and screamed. Lights flashed warnings in red and yellow and orange. Daniel died on the table 3 times. The first time, his heart simply stopped. The doctors used electric shock to bring it back. The second time, he stopped breathing. They forced air into his lungs with a machine. The third time, both happened at once and for 17 terrible seconds. Every monitor showed flat lines. Larethan watched through the window of the surgery room. She did not move. She did not blink. She barely breathed. Her hands were pressed flat against the glass, leaving prints in her own dried blood. She was praying. Volanthi royalty did not pray. They did not believe in gods or higher powers or anything beyond themselves. But Larethan was praying anyway. To anyone who might be listening, to anything that might help, please do not let him die. Please do not take him from me. Please give me the chance to make this right. The lead surgeon, a severe woman named Dr. Calith, worked without rest for 6 hours. Human bodies were strange to her. Their organs were in different places than Volanti organs. Their blood was different. Their bones were different. Everything was different. But Dr. Calith was the best surgeon in the fleet. And she refused to let this human die on her table. Finally, after 6 hours of cutting and stitching and desperate improvisation, Daniel's vital signs stabilized. His heart beat on its own. His lungs filled without help. The monitors showed steady lines instead of chaos. Dr. Calith emerged from the surgery room with blood on her silver scales. She looked exhausted in a way that Larethan had never seen before. "He will live," Calith said. "For now. The next 3 days are critical. If he survives that long, he has a chance." "A chance?" Larethan's voice was hollow. "What kind of chance?" "Humans are fragile, Princess." His wounds were severe. The blade damaged several internal organs. "I repaired what I could, but his body must do the rest." Human bodies are very good at healing themselves. Better than ours in some ways. But he lost a lot of blood. He is weak. What can I do? Calith looked at her strangely. This was the princess who had refused to acknowledge her human husband for weeks. This was the royal who had treated him like dirt beneath her feet. And now she stood in the medical bay, covered in blood, asking what she could do to help. "Talk to him," Calith said finally. "Humans respond to voices. Studies show that coma patients often hear the people around them. Talk to him. Give him a reason to fight." Larethan nodded. She walked past Calith into the surgery room. She pulled a chair next to Daniel's bed and sat down. She did not leave for 3 days. Grace, Kim, came to check on her every few hours. She brought food that Larethan did not eat. She brought blankets that Larethan did not use. She offered to take over the watch so Larethan could rest. Larethan refused everything. Instead, she talked. She talked about her childhood on the Volanthi homeworld, about the gardens where she used to play, about the brother who had died in a war before she was born. She talked about her mother, the gentle empress who had taught her to see beauty in small things. She talked about her father, the cold emperor who had sold her to a stranger for mining rights. She talked about Daniel. "I read your notes," she told him on the second night. His eyes were closed. His chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. He did not respond. "I kept them all. I told myself it was because I wanted to remember your foolishness. But that was a lie. I kept them because they were the first kind words anyone had given me in years." She reached out and took his hand. It was warm. Human warm, not Volanthi cool. She had never held his hand before. "You wrote about my mother. You lit a candle for her. No one else remembered that anniversary. Not my father. Not my attendants. Not anyone in the entire empire. But you remembered. You, who had never met her. You, who had no reason to care." Tears fell from her golden eyes. They dropped onto the white sheets like little silver stars. "Why do you care, Daniel Hayes? Why do you try so hard for someone who has given you nothing? What is it that you want from me?" "What is it that you want from me?" On the third day, she found the answers. Grace Kim had gathered Daniel's personal belongings from his cabin. She brought them to the medical bay in a small box, thinking Larethan might want to see them. Inside the box was Daniel's notebook, the one he always carried. Larethan opened it and began to read. The first pages were full of information about Volanthi culture. Foods, customs, history, important dates. All the research Daniel had done to try to make her comfortable. But as she turned the pages, the notes changed. She found a section titled, things to remember about Larethan. She likes to watch the stars when she thinks no one is looking. She probably feels alone. She does not eat the crusts on her bread. Maybe she did not like them as a child either. She gets quiet when anyone mentions her mother. She is still grieving. I should be gentle about this. Her favorite color might be purple. She stared at that purple flower for a long time. She writes beautiful letters. Her handwriting is like art. I hope she writes to me again. Larethan turned more pages. She found lists of questions Daniel wanted to ask her someday. She found sketches he had drawn of her from memory. She found a pressed flower, the first one he had left with her food, now dried and fragile. She found a letter. It was dated the night before the attack. Daniel had written it but never sent it. Maybe he had planned to give it to her someday. Maybe he had written it just for himself. But now Larethan read it, and every word cut into her heart. Dear Larethan, you will probably never read this. But I wanted to write it anyway, just in case something happens to me. I know you hate this marriage. I know you hate me. You have every right to feel that way. Your freedom was taken from you. Your future was decided without your consent. You were treated like property by a father who should have protected you. I cannot fix that. I cannot give you back the life you lost. All I can do is try to be worthy of the one you have now. I grew up alone. My parents died when I was young. My grandmother raised me, but she died too. I spent most of my life looking for somewhere to belong, someone to stay with, someone who would not leave. When I saw you at the auction, I did not see a princess. I saw someone who looked as lost as I felt. Someone who needed kindness as badly as I did. Someone who deserved to be loved for who she was, not for what she could give. I know I am not what you wanted. I know I am not good enough for you. But I promise you this, I will never stop trying. I will stay by your side for as long as I live. I will protect you, honor you, and cherish you until my last breath. And if I die before you read this, please know that I do not regret anything. Meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me. Even if you never loved me back, you gave me something to stay for. Thank you. Daniel Larethan closed the notebook and pressed it against her chest. She was crying openly now, silver tears streaming down her silver scales. She did not try to stop them. She did not try to hide them. She understood everything now. Daniel Hayes did not want power or influence or favor. He did not want anything from her at all. He simply wanted someone to love, someone to stay with, someone to call family. And she had given him nothing but coldness. She took his hand again and leaned close to his ear. Wake up, Daniel, she whispered. Please wake up. I have so much to tell you. I have so much to make right. Please do not leave me now. Please stay. His eyes did not open. His hand did not move. But Larethan felt his fingers twitch slightly against her palm. A response. A sign. A reason to hope. She settled back in her chair and continued her vigil. She would stay by his side for as long as it took, because that was what Daniel had taught her. That was what love did. It stayed. Daniel Hayes opened his eyes on the fourth day. The first thing he saw was light. Soft white light from the ceiling of the medical bay. The second thing he saw was Larethan's face, looking down at him with an expression he did not recognize. You stayed, he whispered. His throat was dry and his voice was weak. Larethan reached for a cup of water and held it to his lips. She helped him drink, her hands surprisingly gentle. You stayed first, she said. Daniel blinked. He was not sure he understood. His memories were foggy. He remembered the assassins. He remembered the blade going through his body. He remembered telling Larethan to run. How long? He asked. 4 days. You almost died. Several times. Larethan set down the water and took his hand in hers. Her silver scales were cool against his warm skin. The doctors said you should not have survived. They said your wounds were too severe. But you kept fighting. You kept coming back. Daniel managed a small smile. Had a reason to stay. Larethan was quiet for a moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was worn and wrinkled, like it had been read many times. "I found your letter," she said softly. "The one you wrote the night before the attack." Daniel's smile faded. He had never meant for her to read that. It was too personal, too vulnerable, too much of his heart on a page. "I am sorry," he started to say. "I should not have. Do not apologize." Larethan's voice was firm but gentle. "That letter told me more about who you are than anything else ever could. It showed me what I was too blind to see." She leaned forward, her golden eyes meeting his green ones. "I was wrong about you, Daniel Hayes. I was wrong about humans. I was wrong about everything." Her voice cracked slightly. "And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for how I treated you. You deserve better." Daniel stared at her. In all the scenarios he had imagined, all the ways this marriage might go, he had never imagined this. Princess Larethan apologizing to him. Princess Larethan admitting she was wrong. "You do not have to apologize," he said. "You had every right to be angry. Your father sold you. Your freedom was stolen. I was part of that, whether I wanted to be or not." "No." Larethan shook her head. "You were never part of that. You were the only one who tried to make it better. The only one who cared about what I felt. I was so focused on my anger that I could not see the kindness right in front of me." She squeezed his hand tighter. "I read all your notes," she continued. "Every single one. I saw the pressed flower in your notebook. I saw the sketches you drew of me. I saw the lists of questions you wanted to ask." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "No one has ever cared about me like that. No one has ever tried to know me. Not the real me. That is all I wanted," Daniel said. "To know you. To understand you. To be someone you could trust. And now you are." Larethan lifted his hand and pressed it against her cheek. "You are someone I trust. Someone I respect. Someone I want to know better." She paused. "Someone I want to deserve." Daniel felt tears forming in his eyes. He had spent his whole life alone, building walls around his heart, expecting everyone to leave eventually. And here was this princess, this immortal being who would live for thousands of years, telling him that she wanted to deserve him. "I am just a human," he said. "I will grow old. I will die. You will barely remember me 1,000 years from now. Then I will make sure every day we have matters." Larethan's voice was fierce. "I will make sure you know you are valued. You are important. You are loved." She hesitated at the last word, then continued anyway. "Yes, loved. I know it is too soon. I know we barely know each other. But I want to love you, Daniel Hayes. I want to learn how." Daniel could not speak. He simply looked at her, this silver princess with golden eyes, and felt something warm spreading through his chest. Something he had not felt since his grandmother died. Hope. The news of the assassination attempt reached Emperor Varth within days. The response was immediate and terrifying. House Catharian was declared enemy of the Empire. Their ships were hunted. Their leaders were arrested. Their entire bloodline was stripped of all titles and power. But Larethan did not care about politics anymore. She spent Daniel's recovery learning about humanity. Grace Kim became her teacher and, slowly, her friend. Grace told her about Earth, about its blue oceans and green forests and white clouds. She told her about human history, the wars and the victories, and the endless stubborn refusal to give up. "That is what makes humans special," Grace said one afternoon. "We do not live very long. We are not very strong. We have no special abilities. But we never surrender. We keep fighting even when victory is impossible. We keep hoping even when everything is lost. Lorethan thought about Daniel walking into a blade to protect her. She thought about him refusing to let go of the assassin's wrist, even as he was dying. She thought about all those weeks of quiet kindness despite her cruelty. "Yes," she said quietly, "I am beginning to understand." When Daniel was strong enough to walk, Lorethan took him to the observation deck. It was the first time they had been there together since the attack. The windows had been repaired. The blood had been cleaned away. But the memory remained. They stood side by side, watching the stars drift past in the endless darkness. "I owe you something," Lorethan said. "You owe me nothing. I owe you the truth." She turned to face him fully. "I was afraid of you. Not because you were human. Not because you were weak or primitive or any of those things I told myself. I was afraid because you were kind. And kindness has always been used against me." Daniel listened without speaking. "In my world, kindness is a weapon," Lorethan continued. "People are kind when they want something. They are kind to manipulate, to control, to gain advantage. I have never known kindness without conditions. I did not believe it existed." She reached out and took his hands in hers. "But you showed me something different. You were kind because you wanted to be kind. You stayed because you wanted to stay. You had nothing to gain from loving me. You did it anyway." Daniel finally spoke. "That is not special. That is just how humans love. Then humans are better than we knew." Lorethan smiled, and it was the first real smile Daniel had ever seen from her. "You are better than I deserved. But I want to deserve you now. I want to earn the devotion you have already given. I want to be the wife you always believed I could be." She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. In Volanti culture, this was the deepest sign of trust and connection. It meant more than any kiss, any words, any ceremony. "No more bowing," she said. "We are equals, you and I partners. Whatever this marriage becomes, it will be built on respect." "And what will we build it on?" Daniel asked. Lorethan thought about the meals left at her door, the notes written in careful handwriting, the body thrown between her and death without hesitation, the letter that had shown her his soul. "Loyalty," she said, "devotion, and time. However much time we have, I want to spend it with you. I want every day to matter." Daniel smiled. It was the first real smile he had given her too, bright and warm and full of hope. "Then let us begin," he said. "Together." Lorethan nodded. She took his arm and turned to face the window. The stars stretched endlessly before them, cold and beautiful and full of possibility. Somewhere out there, the galaxy still whispered that humans were primitive, that they were insignificant, that they lived too briefly to matter. But Princess Lorethan of the Third Solar Dynasty did not believe those whispers anymore. She had married a human, a simple man with a simple heart who had taught her what it meant to stay, what it meant to love, what it meant to hope. And that, she decided, was the greatest gift anyone had ever given her. The ship continued its journey toward Earth. 3 weeks remained before arrival. 3 weeks to learn, to grow, to build something neither of them had ever expected. Daniel and Lorethan walked back to their quarters together, hand in hand, for the first time since the auction. They were not just bound by law. They were bound by choice. And that made all the difference. The end.